Dear friends of Love for Volleyball, amor por el voleibol, I have the pleasure and honor to speak today with a former player from the Netherlands, Olympic medalist and current coach of important national and club teams, a winner of a huge number of medals. I mean Avital Selinger, who is kindly talking with me today about his volleyball history. Hello, Avital, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you, Alfredo.
Super. And first of all, Avital, please tell me when and why did you start playing volleyball?
Well, when I don't remember. I was born and I have photos that I have a ball in my hands, So very good relationship with the ball since I was young. Not necessarily volleyball, all sports. The reason, I played all kind of sports. I did everything almost, but in where I grew up, volleyball was the main sport. It's East European immigrants that came in the 30s, like my grandfather, and built up in the 30s, last century. They built up it's called the kibbutz in Israel, and they brought with them the culture of volleyball from Poland, Russia, and so that was the main sport in the highest level in Israel where the community participated, and so I was kind of led into it.
Fantastic. And how was your history after being there in Israel to go to the Netherlands and became a such important player?
Well, it was actually due to my wife, actually, which was she's Dutch, was Dutch at that time, obviously, and she came to visit Israel as a tourist, and we met at a very young age, and we fall in love, and then after spending some time in Israel, we decided also to share experience also in Holland, and then and we moved to Holland, and then I found a place to keep in shape, and practice and so on and so on, very close to Amsterdam, and that's where it all started.
Super. And as I told you outside camera, I know that you played for example, in Brother Martinus as a setter, and
yes.
and I always have watched that in the Netherlands. The players are so tall, and you're a setter from a short height. And so I wanted to ask you, how could you? I know you were a fantastic setter, but how was your task to improve and be better than the tall setters to could play in the national team, to could play in Olympic finals? How was it for you? And how was it? How do you manage to be the best setter, even as a shorter player as the normally Dutch player?
Well, that's difficult to answer. I never thought I never felt short.
Okay.
It's the ball does not recognize colors, heights. He responds to how you touch it, and physical ability is one thing. The game is played not only in front of the net, it's also backward. So probably I compensate many aspects of the game, which with compensate the lack of height in other aspects, which probably I made the other tall players doing much better than without me. That's one. I think the teammates that I had made me better as a whole, as a unit. But there are a lot of advantages being short setter, and that's a kind of a volleyball philosophy, And as a short setter, you definitely can see much more than taller setters that sometimes go so high with the ball above the court and above even the spikers, that they see less. That's one. Point two, as a setter, the trajectory of the set, you can, if you design the attack in a certain way, you can connect two players, sometimes three, in a better way, which is very difficult for the block to recognize which player will touch the ball, and still the ball continues to the next player and maintains its height, or even goes higher. If you are very tall setter, actually sometimes you have a problem that the spikers are smaller than you, in my time, obviously, and then it's difficult to get the same efficiency and the quality of the attack. Obviously, what you cannot do is being a short player, is blocking as well as a taller player. But that's something that my teammate helped me. And well, the results, we never thought about it, short, tall, you have to be good, and that's it. But this is very technical stuff, what we're talking right now. So
it's very interesting what you're saying. I remember, for example, the Argentinian setter Waldo Cantor or Javier Weber. He also was a little short, and they make, as I saw, for example, in your team in Barcelona, when you are on the net, you got a little back, and the two blockers, transfer, for example, or Jan Postuma, they blocked for you. And the same did Waldo Cantor and Javier Weber. Very interesting. For me, it's very interesting. History.
And yes, but at that time, don't forget, at that time, I think Peter Blanger and Fullo from Italy, they were exceptionally tall. Toffoli from Italy, world champions, was also, 185. Mauricio was not so tall, from Brazil. So the first tall players, I think, if I can remember, there was Zaitsev was 190, that we go to the 60s, I mean, up to 88 Olympic Games, but before him, with him was Losev from Russia, Dusty Dvorak from America was, and then Jeff Stork. They become, you're talking about 190 something. So it started, but our team at that time was exceptionally tall. Maybe even nowadays, we would be one of the tallest teams in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
It was interesting. It was time. It was fun.
Very interesting. And I wanted to continue with your career. When did you visualize that volleyball could be your life as a player, or later as a coach? When did you realize that it could be a way of life for you?
Well, it was. It's not that I decided. I started. Actually, until today, I'm a player. I'm not. I'm not a coach. I'm a player. I went into coaching after I finished playing when I was 37, and for the simple reason is because I felt it was so fascinating to have this journey as a player, that I thought, well, if I could make a contribution for other players and help them, to find their way to the top, then I would be willing to do it. And that's the only reason I'm coaching. I'm not coaching because I need to coach. I'm not coaching because I need to win or whatever. This I did when I was a player. There are still nowadays, you see less and less players become coaches. Most of the coaches are players. I mean, coaches who did not play the game at the highest level, especially by women coaches. Less and less men coaches still. Men volleyball, you see top players, become slowly also coaches. So that's it. And so that's and at a certain point, you are just get sucked into into the business, and then you become very good at what you do. And I'm telling you, it still takes time to learn to become really, 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 really good coach, because there is total different, to be able to do it yourself as a player than make other people do it as you could do, or whatever, or even better.
Exactly. And as a player, what championship was the most important for you, or the most remembered? And maybe sometimes you play a very good, but you don't win, or sometimes it's in the inverse. What was it for you, the best or the most remembered championship that you had as a player?
For good and bad, I remember all of it. But everything has. I cherish all my experiences everywhere. But usually, the most what I remember than the tough losses.
Okay.
Because luckily we were able to win much more than we lost.
Yes.
So it's easy, but the pain of losing is the most at a certain point. Even when I played 22 years, at the highest level, and at a certain point, the pain of losing was greater than the joy of winning. But in the end, when you win, then it makes everything okay. But on the way to that point, there is a lot of matches or disappointments and challenges that you have to overcome, which shape your personality, and slowly and actually forces you to progress and become better and better and better. So actually, the losses are the one I cherished the most, and decided for myself that will not happen again in my life. And well, obviously, as long as you play, you're going also to lose some.
Exactly. And I have also the opportunity, as I told you outside the camera, to interview Ron Zverbro, Bas van der Goor, Peter Murphy, and Joe Balbeda. And how was it for you to be part of this incredible generation of Netherlands volleyball, where as they told me, all of the instance of the Dutch Volleyball Federation, the government, and you players wanted gold. How was it for you to be part of this incredible, fantastic generation?
That was great. I was one. We started. I was. Let me put it this way. I was almost, able to see the development of the whole, time. I mean, the whole project. So it's not project. It's something that you start. And there was the guys who came together and decided. I don't know if it was crazy or not crazy, but we shared the common dream. To become the best of the world. Realistically or not. But this just happened, and so looking back, that was great. It's great for us, for ourselves, to achieve the dreams we set, the goals that we set for ourselves. It's great actually for the whole volleyball community in Holland, but actually it affected the whole sports. Yes. Team sports in Holland, and the culture, and showed actually to everyone that if you want, everything is possible. Even for us, for the Dutch, so small country as we are, to become one of the best teams in the world at a certain point of time. That was great, and I'm very proud to be able to be one of the guys who made a contribution to the whole thing.
Fantastic. And tell me, please, Avital, how is for you, or how was the influence of your father as a trainer, when you was a player and now as a coach, as a trainer. In my personal experience, I told you also that my father was my trainer when I started to play volleyball, and sometimes it's very difficult because you the only thing you talk about is volleyball at home and the gym. But how was it for you to have such an important trainer as your father?
Well, my father came into the process at the point that we could not break a certain barrier, you know, and it came just in '85. That was after he was the head coach of the USA national team, women's team.
Yes,
finished the Los Angeles games there and took a sabbatical year to write his book, volleyball book. And then we were coached by great coaches, like Peter Murphy was our coach the year before, and then they say, guys, you need somebody who can help you, go over the hump. And a professional coach, because Peter Murphy was coaching us together with another coach and shared the load during the week. 2 times Peter coached us 4 practices, another coach coached us 2 practices and coached us during the match. So my father came and actually turned things around, not only for our sport, but for the whole sport in Holland. And with him, working with him, we really started to take off and become really a serious contender.
Yes.
But actually then Joop Avital took over and finish, and guide the team up to the gold in '96.
Atlanta, exactly.
Yes. So my father was very important for the whole team, but that's what we did, and I enjoyed every minute of it, and not again, we separated the father and son relationship between the fact that he's a coach. Many years after, when I became a coach, I realized actually that to be a coach of your son or daughter is something that it's very tricky. It can be very tricky. And he told me that he could do it only because I made it for him easy to coach. Otherwise, it could be very, very, very uncomfortable. I would not be able to. I would never coach one of my kids, because you go to a territory that it could be a little bit tricky for your family, relationship. So, but we could do it together. So we enjoyed it very much.
Yes, exactly. It's the same as Bernardinho with his son Bruninho. And he won a lot of medals, and I know because of my experience, as you say, it's very tricky. Sometimes it's not easy to separate the relation father, son, and player and trainer as a coach. I understand you absolutely. And now please tell me, later you became coach. You started training female teams, and you won with the national team of the Netherlands many medals, as the Grand Prix, for example, or the World the European Championship. How was it for you to take over a team and became an important trainer, and how was it for you later this year also to be the coach of the female team? How was this story for you?
Well, it started from the moment I finished to play, and I realized that I knew so much about the game, that I knew I could not be a coach without really learning how to become a coach. I knew about the game, but from inside out. And as a coach, you need to see it from outside in. So I went and I spent 7 years in Japan. So I started going 3 years, I worked as with my father. He was the head coach team of Japan, very successful team. At that time called Daiei Orange Attackers in Kobe, Japan. Worked there for 3 years with him, and then I continue when my father left. I continued to coach in Japan for 4 years as a head coach, and after that, I moved back to Europe. And started Tenerife. I was there the club team, and then 1 year, 1.5 season, and then they asked me to become the head coach of the women's team. At that time, 8 years I worked with that team, and then I came at a certain point. I spent about 16 years away from home. 8 years, 7 years Japan and 1 year in Tenerife. And then I was 8 years in Holland, and then I went 2 years to Russia, to Israel, back. I went to France, Switzerland, France, and then in 3 years ago, it was enough for me. I decided I need, I don't get any younger, and the days cannot redo it again, and I decided enough chase of medal. I need to spend more time at home with my family and give some priority to other aspects of life. And Joop Abera was at that time the technical director here in Holland, and I joined actually to the junior program, women's program here in Holland to development program to develop the youngsters. I'm just still today. I'm a coach of the Dutch Federation, and at a certain point after the 2020, the disappointment of the not qualifying for the Olympics in Tokyo, some players decided to stop. Some players decided not anymore to be available to play for the national team. This team was very, very successful.
Yes,
based on the foundation that started like 16 years ago. Building up the new culture and style of play, and so I presume that because Holland had actually were assigned to have the World Championships to be played here in Holland this year, and that was something. I'm sure everybody thought, okay, this team, the great team, which were fourth on the Olympics in Rio, fourth in the World Championships in Japan in 2018. That they would go and have this kind of World Championship in Holland, use it to perform and even finally win a medal in a big tournament like that. But the reality was different, and so I guess Joop asked me, please, would you be interested to take the challenge and create again the foundations for a new generation in one hand, and also for the long term, but also minimize the damage of whatever can happen in such a short notice, in order to be able to perform in such a way during that at least the tournament will be a great success in Holland. And so I was willing to do that. It was not easy because then the corona was becoming big part of our lives. Well, I turned it into a positive, which gave us the opportunity to practice with many players here, where we're in the center, volleyball center here in Papendal, Arnhem in Holland, and work and build and invest as fast as we can, as much as we can, in young players. And eventually, the results are first years, the last year decent, 7th in the VNL, 4th in the European Championships, and this year, we had our shares of good matches, but not consistent enough. And actually, the World Championships, in terms of the federation and as an organization, it was a big, huge success.
Yes.
And and I'm back into my comfortable place where I can continue and develop young players. Yep. So that
volleyball is such a beautiful sport, and we have the opportunity now to watch all this championship live. Thanks to internet, I can talk with you face to face. It's incredible, for me and for many people around the world. And we can also watch the games from the past and YouTube. It's amazing. I think we're living in an amazing time for volleyball, and to help to spread it and make it more popular. And what you're saying about the championship in the Netherlands, it was fantastic. The media, the social media coverage, it was amazing to watch.
Exactly.
All the games. For example, I remember the gym in Apeldoorn. If I'm not wrong, with three courts in one.
No, that was in Arnhem. That was in Arnhem here.
Exactly.
It was in a football stadium. It was in a football stadium.
Incredible, amazing. It was. It was a huge stadium, a football stadium with 3 courts. And as you're telling me, we saw the Dutch team playing a very strong, high and young team, but also female volleyball has improved so much. There's more and more powerful teams like the Belgium, for example, the German, I don't know, Brazil, Italy. It's incredible. And
in Europe, the competition is very tough.
Yes,
very tough on any given day. There are definitely like Italy and Serbia, Turkey, Russia. When they do play, they are a little bit, above, and then under you have a group of teams which actually the year before we were 4th. After these 3. And you lose one match against Belgium, then you are going down. You have a couple of teams like Poland, Germany, and us, and trying to go into the top 6. If you add up Brazil, China,
Japan, also
USA,
yes,
Japan. If you want to go there to the top 8, then you need, that's the realization. It doesn't, it's not like we practice 2 years and then we can close the gap. Every professional coach or somebody, the volleyball has grown to such a level that it takes time, and that's great. That's good for the sport, but the realization of the youngsters nowadays must be also so. There are no shortcuts. You need to pay your dues if you want to, to become the best.
Absolutely. And tell me, please, Avital, about your current projects and as a coach in the Netherlands, and what are your next steps? Do you want to keep living in Netherlands, or maybe sometimes you receive a great offer and you want to move again? But hey, what is your step by step?
I'm very comfortable. I'm trying to make a contribution to youngsters, and as long people can not there is a possibility for me to share knowledge and to make other people better, and use my experience. One thing it's very difficult to teach or to say is experience.
Yes.
And sometimes nowadays I see that people skip it. They go to statistics, they go to a lot of instruments that should be can help become better, but they forget where everything started, and they forget the ABC. They start already with DEF, but the ABC, where everything coming from, where the foundation of the game, the principles of the game, how we can teach youngsters, but also you need coaches who understand what everything's coming from in order to really become coaches that can make players better. And this is, as long as I'm needed, as long as there is interest, I will keep doing what I love to do.
Fantastic. And what is your opinion about current volleyball? You played as me in the 80s, and volleyball has changed so much. Not only the thing that today we have a libero or the coach stand beside the court, and we all saw when you were standing beside the court that some ball came out and you do such a acrobatic thing. What's your opinion about the current volleyball and all the changes we have watched? And are you agree with it? Do you want to or think maybe we could change something, or it's okay for you how volleyball is developing?
Well, first of all, in aspects of the role of the coach for the camera and so on, I'm a little bit old school in this. I think the stage is for the players,
yes,
and not for the coach.
Yes, I agree.
I see Lang Ping, always sitting, and I think that's Karpol is still coaching and sitting, and I would could live with that, because in other sports like basketball or whatever, people sit, and once in a while you stand and you can communicate. If people expect from the coaches to steal the show and make the show or whatever, that's not my style, here. But the rest, everything is the volleyball is nowadays much more interesting to watch than many years ago. It has to. The level is tremendous. The athletic ability, and I'm talking now men and women.
Yes.
The power, everything, but it's always action reaction. At times, the people become so strong, and there is so much speed involved in the game that you need time to let the players react.
Yes.
In terms of defense. Nowadays, it happened in tennis in the 90s. The big guns came, and Ivan Nizevic and Prajcek and other guys destroyed the men's tennis game by serving too hard. Exactly. until Agassi, Sampras, and Chang started. But then all Nadal, Federer, they started to return all these big serves, and then it becomes a beautiful game. Yes. With power, but still rallies. So women, you see, it's easier for the women to react and become and make it interesting. Men nowadays, really at the top, you see tremendous volleyball in terms of physical ability and reaction, also in defense. The skills, there is always a way to improve. In terms of defense, the attack at this point is dominant by men, by women as well. But the footwork can catch up in time to make it actually the game even better. Overall, you cannot compare the game, or 10 years ago even, or definitely 30 years ago to nowadays. But as you say, every time it has its own share of contribution to the development of the game.
It's so interesting what you're saying. Also, in the 70s and the 80s, we saw that there was a Japanese volleyball school, a Brazilian volleyball kind of playing, a Russian volleyball school also with high balls, many strong players. And now, as you're saying, in the men's, for example, there's 5 or 10 teams that play little similar, with strong serve, very big players. Sometimes you see, for example, Engapet makes some crazy things. But I remember also in your time, my time, there was, for example, middle players, middle blockers like Bas van der Goor or Igor Runov, who, for example, or Henk Jan Held, who could attack very well from the backside, from the 3-meter line. And today, sometimes we watch, for example, Lucao from Brazil do it, but the middle blocker today make the 3 position, then serve and go out. So for me, as a vintage volleyball lover, sometimes it's a little bored to watch this kind of specialization. What do you think about this, or maybe it's the right way to make volleyball today?
Well, theoretically, the possibilities of attack in the past without the libero is greater than now, because actually now you attack with 4 players or 5, let's say, if the setter is also an attacker, can attack. But in the past, definitely people could attack 5 players. Brazil in '92 played multi-tempo attack with Negrão and Carlau attacking, different tempos, and then the other players could, fill up the gaps from the back row. So actually 5 people attacked. But we started that. Maybe that was the contribution of my father that he brought in '85. We started practicing attacking with 5 people attack on 5 net points on the court, and it was not 5. It never became still operative. It was still in experience phase. But 4 people attack, we started to use it. Maybe one of the first. USA was not attacking 4 people attack during the '88 Olympics. We played against them in '89 in April, and we started to incorporate it, and slowly it became, with Ron Sverver, is one of the greatest back row supplement from the center, from the pipe, what they call it nowadays. Italy at that time were world champions. They did not use it in the 1990. Cuba did not use it, but we did heavily. And Brazil took it to the next level in '92. And you see, and nowadays everybody's copy paste. You see it in basketball. You see how Europe catch up with the NBA and everything. There are no secrets anymore, and people watch. But this is what I was referring to, what I said before. Copy paste does not. It's different than when you know where the source is coming from. There are many. In the past, you needed to learn or to invent it by yourself and to really dig in and find the roots of the process in order to create it. Nowadays, people take the shortcut. They see it on YouTube and they bring it, and they do it also, but they don't know where it's coming from. And that's what I'm saying. Older coaches, experienced coaches that 40 years in the business, 50 years in the business, whatever, players from who experienced this way because they played it, and then they also taught other people to do. There are very valuable people in order to share the knowledge and give it to the next generation, that the next generation will not lose the connection with the past, where the ABC.
It's so important. And I remember when you were talking, when I interviewed, for example, William Carvalho da Silva from Brazil, or Bernard Rachman from Brazil, from they called it the Generación de Plata, the generation of silver, because they lost the final against the USA in Los Angeles in '84, and they told me they were shorter than the other teams, like the Russians, for example, the Bulgari, and they told me that coach gave them the free to invent. So they invented to play rapidly. That one player, Renan, for example, played a short ball in the middle, then in two, high in four. So they made this Brazilian way of playing with such creativity. So what you're telling me, it's so true. Their history, their background, the ABC of volleyball. So it's so interesting to know and hear you. So it's, for me, it's very, very important to know what you're saying, what you're thinking about volleyball. It's very similar what I think. That's the beauty of volleyball. And I wanted to ask you finally, because I know you're very busy. When you started to playing volleyball, or you were a great setter, do you have, for example, some person you wanted to, for example, to emulate, or you wanted to play like him? Because we in Chile, we saw over the mountains, and we saw the Argentinian, the Brazilian, and I thought, I want to play like Bernard. I want to attack like Quiroga. I don't know. How was it for you, or maybe not? Sometimes people tell me they want to play like themselves.
Well, where I grew up, we could not follow anybody from outside the country. There was not TV. There was, so all these names, from Falconaro, Da Silva, De Serra, Reisman, Del Zotto, all I grew up. I mean, I learned to know them first as in the audience, to watch them in '84 and this. Then in '86, I played them a little bit, and then I saw them. We were at that time not able to play the big tournament, so I went to Paris to watch the '86 Final Four, and that's where it started. I say some guys, few of us, we were sitting. We said, in '92 we are going to play the finals.
That's
so
right.
All these guys we saw, but for me there was two setters in Israel. Nobody knows them. That were my role models. That's I grew watching them, and believe me, they were great. And later on, as I was exposed to the international level, but in the '80s, that's when I started to pick up, from all these great setters, Kim Ho-chul, from Korea, and everybody. From everybody, absorbing, watching, but being who I am, and Cantor was a colleague, the same style, the same height, with our great Argentinian generation at that time, that we struggled to beat them. That's how good they were, actually, and so, that's how it went.
Fantastic, Avital. I finally want to thank you again for your time. For me, it was a wonderful time to know you. I wanted to know you so many years ago. For me, it's very important, not only because of your contribution to volleyball, also because I'm a little crazy about Netherlands volleyball. I told you I have the opportunity to talk with many, and with Peter Murphy, for example, I'm talking many years before I interviewed him. So I wanted to thank you again. I wish you.
You're welcome, my friend.
Success in your current projects, and keep in touch. Invite you to when you have some time to watch my channels, to watch what I'm doing, because I wanted to contribute to the knowledge of volleyball around the world. So many thanks, and keep in touch, and it was for me a great opportunity.
Thank you, Alfredo, for your time and my opportunity to share this interview with you. Have a nice weekend, and stay healthy. That's it. Thank you.